Brought to you by manscaped.com. Make sure you use the promo code TGT20 at manscaped.com to get 20% off of your first purchase, plus free shipping. I am your host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpasser. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host. We like to call him Smooth here, and he's brought to you by Manscaped, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
All right. And last night, the Minnesota Vikings took down the Chicago Bears 13-3. Not 13-3, but they took them down 19-13. And the concerning thing, if you're a Bears fan, no offense again. If you're a Vikings fan, the Vikings are hot. Kirk Cousins won his first Monday Night Football game. He was efficient to the tune of 292 yards. He wasn't spectacular, but he did enough to get the win, and the Vikings are now 4-5, Sam.
Yeah, you got to think this might save Mike Zimmer's job. We were talking about him a couple of weeks ago, potentially being a guy who's on the hot seat. And now we're looking at 4-5. They could finish second place in this division. Probably still won't make the playoffs. But I think a second place finish is more than enough to probably save his job. And they had a little trouble running the ball last night. I mean, they had to deal with Chicago's defensive front, but Dalvin Cook ultimately ran the ball 30 times for 96 yards, kind of grinded the clock down on Chicago. And like you said, the Bears had no offense whatsoever.
I think the Vikings will make the playoffs.
Really? That's interesting. I wonder who taking them over. Like, who do you think is not going to make the playoffs if you take the Vikings?
The Saints and the Bucks are both going. The Packers are going. That's 3. You got the 3 teams from the NFC South. You got the one there. They need one team basically to screw up. Yeah. Correct? And when you look at the rest of their schedule, I mean, 9-7 I think is completely doable with the rest of their schedule. And when I look at, you got the Packers, Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks. I don't think the Seahawks are a sure thing. I don't think any of the 3 NFC West teams are a sure thing to get more than 10 wins. I think it's a sure thing at least one of them will. But when you look at the NFC East, you're only getting one team out of there. You go to the Saints and the Bucks. They both should be safe with the Packers. That's 3. The 3 there, 6. So they're going to need one team to screw up here. And I'll take back what I said because I forgot about the NFC South when I said it. But the Vikings, next game is against the Cowboys. Then they play the Panthers. Then they play the Jaguars. 3 straight wins there, I think, is highly probable. Then you play the Buccaneers, but it's in Tampa Bay. Then you get the Bears again. You get the Saints, and then you get the Lions. So I think at worst, this team's 9-7, and I could see them finishing 10-6.
Now there's the possibility. You're right. They've gotten hot and wrong for the Vikings earlier. Kirk Cousins turning the ball over, not being able to establish the run. It's all going right now. And that defense, for whatever reason, after trading away Yannick Ngakoue, after whatever's happened there, after the injuries they suffered, the defense is playing a lot better. I don't know if it's because they're putting young guys in, and the young guys are getting more opportunities along that defensive line or whatever, or even in the secondary, but it seems like that defense has fixed itself to some degree, which is something I did not expect this year.
Yeah, and when you look at the Bears, can the Bears make the playoffs? I mean, the Bears finished with the Packers twice. They play the Lions. They play the Vikings. They play the Texans. They play the Jaguars. I would think if they're going to make the playoffs, they're going to have to beat the Packers at least once and probably beat the Vikings.
Yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. They need to at least win the next 3 games. The next 3 opportunities are against the Packers, Lions, and then Texans. They need to win all 3 of those, in my mind, to even have a shot. Because right now, they're 5-5. You can get to 8-5 with those final 3 games against the Vikings, Jaguars, and Packers. You're probably going to at least win one of those. You hope to get 2. But there's really so small of a margin for error at this point for Chicago, especially against Green Bay. I can't see them making the playoffs. And let me ask you this. They started off, I think, 5-1 this year?
Yeah.
If they don't make the playoffs after starting 5-1, I mean, do you fire Matt Nagy? I know he's a good coach, but do you have to fire him after missing the playoffs after starting 5-1?
Well, right now, what are they, 5-5?
Yeah.
They're probably going to lose to the Packers. They beat the Lions. They beat the Texans. They lose to the Vikings. They beat the Jags. I think they end up 8-8. I think 8-8 is enough to justify him keeping his job. But that's just because there's going to be so many job openings, you may not get somebody better than him. And when you look at the Bears, their only offense was on special teams last night with Cordero Patterson. And he goes 104 yards, which is the longest kick return in the Bears franchise standard, surpassing Gale Sayers, who just recently passed away, his 103-yard return in 1967. They have no run game. Nick Foles is obviously beat up and hurt. So this team has a lot that needs to be fixed on the offensive side of the football before they even consider to be a playoff team.
No, I agree. There's some bright spots defensively at the very least. Roquan Smith had a very good night. He's that linebacker that used the high draft pick on a couple of years ago. He had some difficulties early on in his NFL career. Things seem to be turning around, though. Initially, it looked like he was overdrafted. Now he may be rounding into the guy they hoped he would be. Other than that, Akeem Hicks got beat up, I think, in the second half of the game, but he had a great game before that. This Bears defense is still very good. If they just had a solid offense or even just a decent offense, they would be a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, but they don't. And I don't think they have the players to even have a solid offense right now, Sam.
No, they don't. They have maybe one player offensively who I think is probably better than most players, than most other offensive pieces in the NFL. And Allen Robinson's a very good receiver. And they have Cody Whitehair on the offensive line. Those are two guys who I think would stand out on almost any team. The issue is that they're playing in Chicago with no support around them, so it's hard to establish how good they are. I think they're borderline elite players. It's just that you got no one throwing them the ball. You don't have a good running game behind them. It's hard to see how good those guys are.
All right, it's Tuesday, so that means quarterback power rankings with Sam Teets. And we're going to start off 1 through 10. And I think when you look at 1 through 10, the top 5 are kind of constantly in flux now, where at one point it looked like it was just going to be Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson has dropped all the way to number 4. You have Tom Brady at 3, Aaron Rodgers at 2, Patrick Mahomes at 1. I think you have Rodgers. I think Rodgers should be 4. And I think Brady.
Really, you want to move him all the way down that far?
I don't think he's played that great, has he?
I'll pull up his numbers right now, but I think he's played more consistently than anyone. He doesn't have a game this year. Well, he only has one game this year.
The
passer rating below 100. Yeah, the Tampa Bay game. Exactly. But every quarterback, I think, besides Patrick Mahomes, has had a very bad game. Russell Wilson this past week against the Rams. Tom Brady against the Saints. They all had one very bad game. So to me, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers has played very consistent right now. Only 26 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. I think that's still better than what Tom Brady's done so far.
I think it's better than Tom Brady, too, for a whole. I mean, that's the thing about these rankings. Do you go off the entire year and where they sit now, or do you go off of what they've done for you lately? I think it's more of a combination of the two. And, I mean, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, I think, are playing with a lot less around him than Mahomes and Brady are. I really don't have a complaint with any of your top 4. Your number 5, I have a complaint with because Ben Roethlisberger should be number 5.
Yeah, the only reason Drew Brees is at number 5 still, or he was number 4 last week, he's at number 5 right now, it's because it's incomplete game pretty much. I had no idea what to do with that really. So at the time I was writing this, I didn't even know what the medical situation was going to be with him. I only got it basically a couple of hours before I published this article. We now know he's not going to play for a couple of weeks. But
it's going to be more than a couple of weeks. He's going to be out more than a couple of weeks. He's going to be out for at least a month, is my prediction.
Yeah, he'll probably go on IR and come back in 3 to 5 weeks, I would think, based on what's going to happen. I mean, collapsed lung. That doesn't sound very good. It's going to be very painful for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, and you can make the argument. Tyrod Taylor out for 4 weeks. So this is 5 broken ribs with a collapsed lung. This could be the rest of the regular season, even.
Yeah, in which case, I mean, that'd be very difficult to come back from that, right? I mean, coming back from that and then just walking right into the playoffs immediately for someone like Drew Brees, I mean, that would have to be difficult, right? Or do you trust Drew Brees just enough to put him out there, even if he has short-term practice and hasn't played in the game since, week 10?
Well, if I got a choice between Drew Brees, Jameis Winston, and Taysom Hill, even if those guys were to play great in his absence, I'm still going back to Drew Brees because he's Drew Brees. Yeah. When we look at 6, you got Big Ben. I think he should be higher. 7, Kyler Murray. 8, Josh Allen. Josh Allen should be ahead of Kyler Murray. He's played better for the totality of the season.
Yeah, but he also had that 3-game slide where he was absolutely nothing in those 3 games.
Well, Kyler
called me a hater.
Kyler Murray's had 2 or 3 games that were bad too, just because he didn't put them in a row. And also, I think you can make the claim that Kyler Murray has not been consistently at as high a level as Josh Allen was, except for those 3 weeks.
I can understand that. I can see where you're coming from with that argument. The numbers actually are fairly close in terms of what they've done so far. Is Josh Allen working with more than Kyler Murray? That's my question to you. Does Josh Allen have more on his team than Kyler Murray?
No. I mean, the Cardinals right now have the best offense in football. He's got DeAndre Hopkins. He's got Larry Fitzgerald. They can run the ball. I mean, Kyler Murray is working with a lot. Buffalo, you're working with Stephon Diggs. They got some pieces there outside of that, but I mean, when you look at this without the Hail Mary, who played better in that game?
You wipe out the Hail Mary in that game?
Yeah.
Probably Josh Allen. Josh Allen did have 2 interceptions, though. It's not like he didn't turn the ball over. He had 2
Well,
interceptions that really cost him
it's
the
not
game.
like Kyler Murray didn't turn the ball over either. And also, Josh Allen did drive him down the field and get the touchdown with what, like 45 or 50 seconds left too on a great throw.
That's true. And, there was a great throw to end that game that landed up in DeAndre Hopkins' hands.
Yeah, but it was luck. And it just was. I mean, it's a great throw to be able to go left and throw the ball, but he still threw it up. And if he throws that up 10 times, as great as DeAndre Hopkins is, he'll catch that once.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that one.
All right, number 9, Deshaun Watson. That's way too high right now. I thought he played terrible against Cleveland. And they've still only won a game or two. 10 for Joe Burrow is too high also. The reason I say it's too high is because Derek Carr at number 11 should be in the top 10.
All right, so here's my question to you. I know Derek Carr he's playing good. I'm not the fact he's playing good. I'm not trying to hate on Derek Carr. But to what extent is it Derek Carr versus the running game? How much of the credit for their success goes to Derek Carr right now? Because I'm having trouble judging it clearly. How do you see it?
How do I see it?
I don't view Derek Carr as being the principal factor for them winning these games.
No matter how you run the ball, you have to be able to get first downs, which he does. And he is efficient. He's efficient. And I'm sorry, but if he was a gunslinger right now, it would not fit into what they do because they're running the ball. They take care of the ball. Derek Carr makes a play here or there to move the chains. They continue to run the ball. Derek Carr makes a play. I don't think you can penalize Derek Carr because his running game is so good that he doesn't have to put up huge numbers. I think that he is doing what needs to be done. And let's put it like this. He's playing a lot better than what Baker Mayfield is. And Baker Mayfield is in the same situation. But when Derek Carr has to make throws like he did against Kansas City, he put up over 40 points on the Chiefs in a game where they needed him to be able to throw the ball, and he did.
And if we go back even further, we can go back and look at what he did against the Saints. He had 3 touchdowns in that game, 284 yards. So it's not like he hasn't had big performances this year, just that he hasn't had to lately in the past 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, I just think he gets crapped on, and he shouldn't be. And even Raider fans crap on him, maybe not so much now, but you still got Raider fans that doubt him. And I would say with Joe Burrow, he's in over his head with the Cincinnati Bengals coaching staff, played against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Ryan Tannehill should be at number 10.
So you think Ryan Tannehill should be at 10? You would move Watson and I'm guessing Watson and Burrow down to 11 and 12?
Yeah. I mean, you can't overlook the fact Ryan Tannehill has not played as well as he had. But still, there's no game where you think, oh, that was absolutely terrible. And I think the biggest issue with the Tennessee Titans right now is on the defensive side of the ball, not the offensive side of the ball.
Well, I can agree with you to some extent there, but over the past 4 weeks, I mean, they're 1-3 of the past 4 weeks or the past 4 games they've played, and he hasn't completed over 61% of his passes during that time. He's been fairly inefficient. Even if he hasn't turned the ball over.
Give me this, though. What's Deshaun Watson and Joe Burrow's record in games in the last 4 weeks?
Equally as bad. I think maybe Deshaun's the same record.
All right, so I'm gonna go with the guy that's winning. That's the difference right there to me between those guys. You got to win. I mean, Deshaun Watson and Joe Burrow, I think, are both top 10 quarterbacks, but you got to win. And I think Tua Tagovailoa should be higher than Teddy Bridgewater. Just because you always rip on Teddy Bridgewater. Now, I think you got Tua at about the right spot. I think you got Teddy at the right spot. Hopefully, he will be healthy enough to play this week. Matthew Stafford ahead of Justin Herbert, I think is ridiculous. I think Matthew Stafford ahead of Matt Ryan is ridiculous. I think Phillip Rivers at number 18 is almost criminally insane right now.
Too low for Phillip Rivers?
I would put Phillip Rivers actually probably up in the 13th spot.
I thought that was going to be one you were going to have trouble with because I have him all the way down to 18 right now. And I thought you weren't going to like that. I figured the Stafford and Rivers ones are going to be ones you did not want to see. But I got Stafford.
What are Rivers' number over the last 3 or 4 games? I mean, he's played pretty well, right?
Yeah, I'll pull him up right now. I think he had one very down game. It was the last game he played against Baltimore. It was a pretty bad game. Other than that, he's had a fairly successful run. The past 4 games, he now has 7 touchdowns touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. And he's completing about 66% of his pass attempts. So about average, I guess you'd say, for the NFL right now.
And I don't think it's any coincidence that with him playing well, now the Colts look like the best team in this division.
Yeah, they certainly do. And they're taking advantage of the Tennessee Titans really sliding off. Like I said, the Titans are 1-4 in their past couple of games, or 1-3 in the past couple of games. And the Colts are taking advantage of that. Philip Rivers, to me, I mean, playing well against Tennessee's defense kind of set me apart from where I was thinking early in the year, because he had some success in Detroit, and then we saw him really struggle against Baltimore.
Yeah, but let's face it, Tennessee's defense is almost as bad as Cincinnati's. And right now, the reason Tennessee doesn't look like a Super Bowl contender is not because of the offense. It's because the defense is atrocious. And the thing is this, though, Philip Rivers took advantage of that. I mean, 29 for 39, 308 yards, 1 touchdown, a significant win on the road against a team that's in first place. And if you lose the game, you're a couple games behind and you're pretty much dead. And instead, Philip Rivers comes out. They're down 7-0 early, and then he pulls away. I mean, after the 7-0, they outscored him, 34-10? So I think Philip Rivers, it's one thing to give a guy hell because at the start of the season, we didn't think he would do much. It's another thing when that guy starts to do it, you got to give him credit for it.
That's true, but you just admitted the 3 best games of the season, they come against really bad defenses.
Well, I could also admit this. There's very few really good defenses in the NFL.
That's a good point. This year, there really aren't.
And we look at Lamar Jackson, 19, Kirk Cousins, 20. I have a disagreement there. I think Kirk Cousins actually should be ahead of Lamar Jackson. Kirk Cousins is playing really well right now.
That's fair. That's fair. I could accept that. I think Lamar had a better game than he's done in the past, but I don't think it was the right game plan for Baltimore. I think they should have been running the ball more than they did against New England. And Cousins, I think he had a pretty good night against Chicago. And really that one, I don't know why I didn't have that reversed looking at it now. Because Cousins, that one, maybe it's because I was doing this at 12 o'clock at night, but that one interception he had last night was on Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen, if you watched it, instead of catching the ball with his hands, he tried to body catch it and it bounced off his chest plate, and Khalil Mack picked it off.
All right, where do you have Tom Brady ranked at? Number 3?
Number 3.
All right, there you go, Bobby Sheridan. He missed the start of the show. He wasn't sure who you had the top 5. The top 5 for Sam was Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, and who do you have at number 5?
I have Brees at number 5, but obviously he's not going to play next week.
Yeah, Drew Brees won't be back in the ratings until right around playoff time. Number 21, Jared Goff. 20, Kirk Cousins. Jared Goff played really well again. I'll tell you this. I trashed Lamar Jackson a lot. I think Lamar Jackson actually played pretty well. I think the problem we see here is teams have figured out how to a way to kind of box him in and contain his ability to run the ball. And when they do that, they force him to throw. And this was the first time since week 1 that Jackson even threw for over 210 yards. And, there's a lot of limitations with Lamar Jackson. And I know Bobby, who's listening, knows I've been saying this for 2 years, and he called me crazy and thought Lamar was up there with Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson's nowhere near Patrick Mahomes. Hell, Lamar Jackson ain't Kirk Cousins right now. 21, Jared Goff. 22, Alex Smith. I would put Alex Smith at number 20 just because, 38 for 55, 390 yards. This is a guy that a couple years ago almost died. Horrific.
Yeah. It's incredible what he's doing. He's going to be the comeback player of the year. Even if he doesn't play another snap this year, he would be, based on what he's done so far through the last 2 weeks.
Well, I think the game where he came in and threw a couple interceptions would put him there. 23, Baker Mayfield. 24, Daniel Jones. I would actually put Daniel Jones ahead of Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's been terrible. The only thing that saves his ass is he's got Nick Chubb, he's got Kareem Hunt, and the defense seems to be improving.
Yeah, both those guys rushed for over 100 yards this past weekend. That's what they needed. I think Nick Chubb actually created more opportunities for Kareem Hunt, which is something we hadn't seen. So he was starting to struggle a little bit without Chubb. And Jones, this is by far Jones' best game of the year. If Jones were to play like this every single week, the Giants would definitely be winning this division by a couple of games.
Yeah, and that's just because of no turnovers. No turnovers, they win the division. If he turns the ball over, they can lose to anybody. They're not very good, but Joe Judge has these guys playing hard, and they play smart. And if I'm a New York Giant fan, I'm really jacked up about the future. I don't know if Daniel Jones is any more, if he progresses, I don't know if he becomes anything more than Andy Dalton. And that's not a shot at Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's a very good quarterback, but you got to put the people around him to be able to help him win. He's not going to take average ability like a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers and drag him across the finish line. So I think with Daniel Jones, you got what you got, which is a solid NFL quarterback. If you want something bigger than that, if you want a guy to win you a Super Bowl, you're probably going to have to go somewhere else. 25 Carson Wentz, 26 Cam Newton. Cam Newton should be ahead of Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has been terrible. I think Carson Wentz is a hell of a quarterback. I think he's had a horrible year because the Eagles as a whole have had a horrible, catastrophic season with injuries. Doug Peterson's play calling is questionable. Cam Newton, I mean, he won the game. I'd put him ahead of Carson Wentz.
Let me ask you this: Is there a chance here that the Eagles end up losing this division, that Doug Peterson or someone in the front office like Howie Roseman gets fired?
No, I don't see why you would fire Doug Peterson. Hell, they've been in the playoffs every year. I mean, they're going to miss it this year. One time, a lot of injuries. Last year, same circumstance. They somehow patched us together, go 9-7, and make it to the playoffs. The other thing is in the NFC East, there's no team that looks like they're far superior to the Eagles. If the Eagles were completely healthy right now, they would have already clinched this division. So I'm not going to hold it against Doug Peterson. I also think when you're coaching a team and you've got that many injuries and you're patchworking things together, a lot of times you'll make decisions you wouldn't normally make out of desperation of trying to do something to win the game. So Doug Peterson's a good football coach. I don't know why, if you're in Philadelphia, you would even consider letting him go.
Yeah, I've had quite a few Eagles fans who have been telling me they want him fired. They want someone like Howie Roseman,
Wait a second,
general manager, gone.
Eagles fans are basically idiots anyways. I mean, he won them a Super Bowl a couple years ago. The Philadelphia Eagles, in my lifetime, 1968 to now, other than the Andy Reid run where he kept losing championship games, and they always wanted to fire Andy Reid. Andy Reid left. Andy Reid won a Super Bowl. You know, Dick Vermeil takes him in 1976 from being one of the worst teams to the Super Bowl in 1980. By the time you get to 81, 82, and they're just a wild card team in 81, they missed the playoffs in 82. Heat's on Dick Vermeil. They fire his ass. What happens? He takes a couple decades off, comes back, wins a Super Bowl, not as an Eagle. So if you're an Eagle fan, you need to slow your roll because this is a guy that just won you a Super Bowl. The last time the Eagles had won an NFL championship was in 1960 with Concrete Charlie Bednarik. So it's not like it's something that had recently happened. So if I was y'all, I would just chill out right now because I still think Carson Wentz is a very good quarterback. Doug Peterson's a very good head coach. You're in a bad division. It's not like any of these teams are about to pull away, even though I do see a good future for the Giants. The Redskins are still poorly run. The Cowboys are poorly run. Just chill out, make your moves in the offseason, and you're back on top in the division.
Yeah, Eagles fans have a tendency to overreact. I'm saying, why would you fire Doug Peterson immediately? You shouldn't be doing that. You should calm down a little bit. One more thing on the Giants. Are the Giants, besides the quarterback spot, are the Giants in a similar situation where Miami was last year? Is that the comparison?
Well, actually, they may be in better shape right now at the quarterback spot than what the Dolphins were at this time last year. The Dolphins didn't know they were getting to it. You know, the Dolphins didn't know where they were going to be picking. So I think you're in a similar spot here. Also, with the Bills and McDermott 3 or 4 years ago, you're in a spot where your guys all play hard. And when you've got that, good things are going to happen. And if you look at the rest of the Giants' schedule, they play the Bengals. I think their defense can give the Bengals trouble. I don't know. Daniel Jones against the Bengals offense, he may look like the second coming of Troy Aikman by the time this is done. But then they play Seattle. You probably lose that. You probably lose to the Cardinals. But I think you can beat the Browns. I think you lose to the Ravens. You beat the Cowboys. You go 3-3 the rest of the way. And 3-3 the rest of the way gives you what? 5 wins?
Yeah, no, 6 wins.
6 wins? All right, so let's check out the schedule of the Eagles because I assume that's the team that they're going to have to beat out.
Yeah.
When you look at the Eagles, they play the Browns, which is probably a loss. They play the Seahawks, that's a loss. Packers, that's a loss. Saints, that's a loss. Cardinals is a loss. Cowboys, they win. Redskins, even if they win, they're behind the Giants then, right?
Yeah, by half a game.
All right, so I think when you look at this whole key for the Giants is the Cincinnati Bengals. If they beat the Cincinnati Bengals, they're going to win this division. That's simple. And, I mean, if they win that division, Joe Judge has done a great job, and they're nowhere near what they are going to be at some point with Joe Judge at the helm of this team. because I think only great things are coming for the Eagle or for the Giants over the next few years because Joe Judge is the head coach.
And then you have the 6-2, the 6-10 Giants go into the playoffs and get smacked in the first round.
Or maybe the 6-10 Giants go and win a playoff game.
That would be something if they did that.
It's the NFL. We see it all the time. Guys win games that they shouldn't win. Right now, if they're 6-10, what would be their seed? 4?
Yeah, it would be 4.
So who would be the 5 seed? That would be the number 1 wild card. Who's going to be the number 1 wild card? Probably Tampa Bay or New Orleans?
Yeah, from the looks of it right now.
So if it's Tampa Bay or New Orleans, maybe New Orleans doesn't have Drew Brees. Maybe he's not the same. And let's face it, we saw the Giants just a couple weeks ago in a Monday night game outplay Tampa Bay and basically blow the game in the fourth quarter.
That's true. If they can probably do that, I mean, they can do that again. Really, if you stick with Tampa Bay, you would probably stick with any team in the NFC at that point. I think the Bucs, even though they lost to the Saints, you can argue they're still potentially one of the best teams, if not the second best team in the conference.
Well, the thing is this. It's the NFL, and every week in the NFL, there's usually a team that's like 3-6 that'll beat a team that's 6-3 that nobody expects will happen. It happens every week. You know, a lot of people thought the Rams had no chance against the Seahawks. I tried to warn you, but you didn't listen. So things happen every week that are unexplained. Number 27, Joe Flacco, he didn't play this week. I think he ought to probably be ranked in the top 10 just because he has to be a New York Jet and play for Adam Gase. 28, Nick Mullins. 29, Jake Luton. 30, Nick Foles. God, this goes to hell once you get past a certain number. Garrett Gilbert, 31. Drew Lock, 32. You think that's interesting about Drew Lock is you thought he was going to lead his team to the playoffs this year, Sam.
You know, yeah, I got to start removing Drew Lock entirely from these articles. They have no mention of the Denver Broncos whatsoever on any of these, so I don't have to hear about it.
So you picked them to go to the playoffs, and now your issue is they're so bad that you can't even list them on your listing.
Yeah, they've been pretty bad. I mean, Drew Lock, he had a little bit of a good stretch there. I think the last 2 games where he's good in the fourth quarter, and then comes out and throws forward and stuff. This guy, this has to be the biggest whiff by John Elway so far. I don't actually know. Paxton Lynch was worse. How could I forget?
Paxton Lynch was worse. I don't even know if he got more than a handful of starts, did he?
I think he got like 3 starts the entire time with Denver. And they cut him before the end of his rookie contract.
All right. Washington players have tested positive. Cowboys staffers have tested positive. And on ESPN, the big story is it was the first all-black officiating crew to work Monday Night Football. So there you go. That's the only NFL news I can find outside of what we've already talked about.
Unless you want to talk, I think Antonio Brown, they said like just 2 weeks before he signed with the Buccaneers, he like threw a bike at a security guard and like broke a security camera or something like that.
I know. Antonio Brown was accused last month by the community in which he lives of destroying a security camera and throwing a bicycle at a security guard October the 15th, citing a police report. The Hollywood decided they had a problem. Okay. The Hollywood, Florida police decided they had probable cause to charge Brown with criminal mischief, a misdemeanor, but the president of Hollywood Oaks Homeowner Association declined to press charges. The Herald reported, according to the report, the president, Sylvia Berman, told police she feared Brown may retaliate against her employees. Berman told the Herald, "We're not afraid of Brown, but that the Hollywood Oaks board decided the incident wasn't serious enough to press charges, and now that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver agreed to fix the camera and the damage." All right, so why is this a story?
I have no idea. It's just an Antonio Brown thing. Antonio Brown makes news for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, they didn't press charges. He paid for it. Damn. He's going to do something worse than that anyways, and it's not like they're ever going to stop him as long as he performs. So,
yeah.
I mean, this was 2 weeks before he signed with him, and the thing that stands out to me is there was no charges pressed. And at least he wasn't.
As long as you don't have the charges in that situation.
At least he wasn't going Darius Geis and beating the hell out of some woman.
Yeah. I mean, that was. Didn't Geis had like multiple charges of that or something like that? They had to cut him early in the season. Early in the year.
Yeah. And hopefully, LSU will deal with that by firing that coach who I can't understand a word he says anyways.
Let's be honest, though. If they're going to fire Ed Orgeron, I mean, this is LSU. We talked about college football in the past. They won't do this for the right reasons. If they're going to fire him, they're going to fire him because LSU is terrible right now. They won't fire him because he's a bad guy or because he's done a terrible job of running that program because he's overlooked these kind of issues. He should be fired because of that, but they won't do it.
They'll fire him soon because of it. Because let's face it, without Joe Burrow, he's not a very good coach. I mean, did anybody ever think he was a very good coach before? Wasn't he about to be fired before last year?
Yeah, he was. He was until Joe Burrow came in. You had Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Mark Chase. You had all these guys come out at the right time. And suddenly, Ed Orgeron's. I saw LSU fans wanting to give him a lifetime deal after winning the national championship, which was. Yeah, but they need to clean house in LSU.
This was 9 of his players were accused of sexual crimes against women.
But remember, only 2 of them were disciplined.
Yeah, Oregon did not suspend, or Orgeron did not suspend 7 of the 9 players who reported, 2 of whom were Grant Delpit and Jacob Phillips, who played key roles on LSU's national championship team in 19. 4 LSU players weren't disciplined after being accused of rape, including star tailback Darius Geis, which looks like, since he just got kicked off the Washington football team, that maybe he's not a very good guy. And damn, I'll tell you, this looks like, and I mean, I wouldn't just want to, where there's smoke, there's fire. When you got multiple people saying you did something or multiple people did something, some of that stuff's got to be true. And the fact that Ed Orgeron didn't do anything about it should get him fired. He's complicit.
Yeah, exactly. But he wouldn't be the first head coach of a program like an LSU or Florida State or Florida to try to sweep something like this under the rug and just weather the storm out and still survive. The only issue is that his team is bleeding right now. They're not doing good. So he probably won't survive because of that, not because of these allegations.
Yeah, the Davis kid, his only punishment with Title IX investigation unfolded was that he was banned from the LSU weight room that summer. But when fall practices began, he was reinstated.
Well, of course he was, because his football at LSU is more important than the health or safety of anyone else on the campus.
He was practicing, and it wasn't until August the 16th when the accuser showed police evidence that Davis threatened to kill her that resulted in his arrest and criminal charge of felony dating violence. Orgeron then suspended Davis indefinitely, but declined to answer whether he had prior knowledge of the previous allegation against Davis. Orgeron's just doing whatever Orgeron's got to do to keep his job and keep making millions of dollars. He doesn't give two craps about anybody but himself.
No, he's not trying to protect anyone else on that campus. The only people he's looking out for himself and football players who can help him win football games and make him even more money.
Yeah, and they also confirmed at USA Today that Delpit was not disciplined after he was accused of recording a woman during sex without her knowledge and then sharing the video with others.
Oh, what a great guy.
Yeah. Well, we all like him, because we can't understand what he says, and he looks cute. You can squeeze his cheeks, right?
Or John, I don't know. He needs to be gone. He and the staff need to be gone after this. I would clean the athletic department as well.
Yeah. AD, everybody needs to go.
You can't be having this in college football. And you can't allow guys like that to keep going back onto your campus. You can't recruit guys like that.
Yeah, well, Orgeron doesn't want to talk about it anymore once he read that prepared report for him.
That's right. He solved everything with that PR report he put out there. So no more concerns, no more reason to keep digging around in LSU's program.
Yeah, well, I guess sometimes you got to do whatever you got to do to win a national championship and keep your job, huh?
Seems like that.
So I don't know, but hopefully Ed Orgeron will end up in prison and some big, burly, masculine inmate will manscape him.
I'm trying not to laugh at that, but that's pretty good, Mike. Yeah, he needs to be out of college football for a long time, if not indefinitely.
All right. Also, I know Bobby Sheridan's listening. Bobby, I mean, Sam said if you try manscaped.com, that it will probably be the greatest day of your life. Correct, Sam? Sam went in there to Manscaped, and the battery lasts for 9 hours, which is pretty amazing on the Lawnmower 3.0. But Sam said it took him probably about 8.5 hours to finish cutting all the hair.
Hey, make sure you go to manscaped.com and use promo code TGT20, guys. It helps out the show a lot. 20% off your first order, free shipping. We would really appreciate it.
All right. So is Sam McGinnis coming on with you tomorrow?
I think so. He said he's checking, but I have
All
no
right.
idea what he's doing.
So I will not be here the rest of the week, but Sam Teets will be guiding the ship into the iceberg. So make sure you check Sam out on the NFL show tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I'll be on a beach in Panama City.
Well, yeah, poor you. Having to go
I
to Panama
know.
City right now.
Well, I got to drive 12 hours to get there, though.
That's true. That's a fair amount of work for it.
And I got to coach 2 football games while I'm there, so that takes away from my beach time. But
You
what
got
the
to
hell are
hurry
you
up and
gonna
win
do?
so you get back to the beach.
I know. I mean, we'll just have to run it up quick. I may not throw the ball at all. Just run the ball every time so we can get to the beach quicker.
Hey, that's a game plan.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap it up. Make sure you check out Sam Teets at Sam Teets 33. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. But for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpastor. Well, I wanted to bring up one other thing before I forget, and that is Rockfin, which I don't think we've brought up near enough on here. And I wanted to bring it up today just because every other time I plan on doing this, I forget because I forget a lot of things. But if you check out Rockfin, rockfin.com, you get the Grueling Truth. You get all of our content. You get extra content like the historical boxing show today about the pardon of Jack Johnson and the true story about Jack Johnson with myself, former HBO boxing historian Chris Shelton, and Buddy Gibbs, who is one of the most renowned boxing historians there is. So make sure you check out Rockfin. You can register for free. You get all of our free content that way, but the premium content, if you pay $9.99 a month, you get premium content from us, but not just from us. There's thousands of other creators there, and they are not like YouTube. They do not edit what anybody wants to say or do. So you can get people like Jason Burmis, who has a mixed martial arts show on our network, who also does a lot of political commentary. Most of the political commentary is from the right-hand side of the aisle because it has been basically shut up by YouTube and Google and every other thing else out there. But you get Tom Lemming if you like college football. But there's a lot of stuff there you get for $9.99 a month. And you can get a lot of stuff just by going and signing up for a free account through the Grueling Truth. So make sure you check out Rockfin. But for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpastor. You've been listening and watching to the Grueling Truth.